Today on One Man Garage, we're going to do some more Hummer H3 bad installation aftermarket item deletion. We had the electric fan that we left in place because we had no choice when we drove back from California earlier this year, and like the fan controller box had fell apart and somewhere along the route, and I ended up zip tying that. And you know, you can see the pro installation, you know, that they did, but I'd rather have a reliable clutch fan and shroud back on it and delete all this bad wiring like shim and stuff in here, and you know, all this crap added and this wiring. So first I called a local wrecking yard that advertised that they showed they had the vehicle, and I asked for pricing for just a used stock fan and plastic shroud and maybe the air box. If we go on and delete the cold air box, it probably doesn't do anything anyway. These motors are still gutless regardless. Anyway, they were stupid. They wanted $200 for a fan shroud. They wanted $125 for a fan. I was like, okie dokie, let me get back with you on that. So I had already looked at Rock Auto, and I got a brand new fan for like $67 and a brand new heavy duty clutch with bolts for like $40. And then a wrecking yard in Oklahoma had a shroud with free shipping on eBay, and by the way, got it in like 1 day or 2 days, $150. So I saved nearly $100 from the dumb junkyard price, and all this delivered to my house within like 2 or 3 days. So there's that. Also have the new stock hot thermostat, you know, to put in it. This thing seems to have a 160 in it, which is probably one of the reasons it's never getting good mileage, because it's not getting to an operating temperature to go into closed loop mode. And I ran a laser temperature checker on this thing, and I let it run a long time and it only got to 160. So that's my bet. And this thing also over here has this jet module, which I understand just is an in-series add-in plug. So I should be able to remove that and plug directly and just not have it. And I think that goes back to the stock computer settings. So we'll do the fan first, get all this wiring off, and then if we have time we'll do the thermostat and then pull that plug chip out. We've got the seats out of this right now, doing some changing some of the gray part of the interior to black, and I think I have to take the wheel or the inner fender well out to get to the side mounted thermostat. It kind of sucks, but we'll deal with that after the fan's in. So we'll check in later. Well, with very few tools required, really just wire cutters, cut a couple zip ties, and 10mm bolts to get the bracket off the fan so I could cut more zip ties. The Flexolite fan and shroud is off, and the dimensions of that would nearly work on my Catalina, but honestly the reliability of the old clutch fan and the steel shroud I put on it from an AC car, it works so darn good and doesn't drag much. I'm not likely to change anything, but I'll keep this. It could be of value to use on some other project down the road. There's a look at our space in here. Of course, all the zip tie crap beats up the fins on the radiator, which doesn't leak, so the radiator is good until it isn't, so we'll just leave it. Hopefully we won't have any trouble with that. Probably need to clean this. I bet that hasn't been cleaned in 10 years. So might wash that. And man, that thermostat, that is kind of behind the alternator. So I wonder if I should just pull the alternator to get to it instead of messing with it from the side. I don't know. We'll decide that in a bit. So taking the alternator off's been a little tough with this hard AC line in the way. Took brackets loose that really just keep vibration out because it's a hard mount down there. But I was able to take this engine lift bracket off here, pull the wires up, and at least left the alternator plugged in but lifted it up. But you can see where I need to be down there. It's also got the dreaded spring clamp on it. So that might be hard to get off without being able to really get on it straight. So we're still formulating a plan, but at least we can see what we're doing. Maybe I'll unbolt the thermostat first, pull the hose all the way out, and then undo it, you know, and then put it back. Maybe. Then we're going to, of course, lose coolant all over the ground because I didn't see a drain on the radiator, but we got to move my fresh cardboard I crawled on. We'll see what happens. We're going to use the my old car leaks 3000 model right here, which actually was an attic horizontal AC condensation catch pan that ended up not using, and thought, hey, man, that could go in the garage and be under leaky engines and transmissions, so not too shabby. We're going to use it to catch coolant and maybe reuse it on the old hum. It's fixing to try to get that upper hose, or the water neck, unbolted and wrangle the hose out and clock the new thermostat with the hose while it's wrangled out, and then flip it back in. It's an O-ring seal, so we'll see what happens. By deleting this stapled on inner fender extension, I can now see the bottom bolt. I got the other one from the front from lifting the alternator, so with my super extension, meaning all of them that I own, it's coming off. I'd say the pan did its job, and so I might be able to reuse some of that. It's pink, but the pink's for awareness that I need to buy this damn GM weird coolant, because Larry really only buys the greeny gold traditional Prestone style. But I think you're not supposed to mix this one, so probably have to spend more money to top this off with the pink weirdo stuff. And as you can see, this baby's been into some cheap ass, some weird pink silicone, resealing the O-ring, putting in a, what does that say? Is it a 187? Sure didn't seem to be running that warm. Well, we're putting a whole new neck on it anyway. I don't know, sworn this had a cool thermostat in it from the laser beam checking, but either way, it's coming out. I'm putting the whole housing assembly. I sharpened me a line on the hose, the clamp, and the housing so I can reference the other housing, so when I flip it around in there it should line up. Probably have to go in there and try to peel some of the silicone mess out. Well, the new thermostat with new O-ring and no silicone is on and pretty well lined up with my reference clocking. So we're going to try to flip that dude in there and get the top bolt to start. And then I can go on the side and stick in the bottom bolt and snug the bottom and then snug the top. Well, the water neck is turked, and I had taken this bolt for this idler pulley out earlier but put it back, and the pulley didn't even come off, which was weird. But it's coming along. I had a zip tie here to help hold the alternator up when I was getting a little working room. But I think it's going to So we're going to cut that and wiggle it down, try to get those 3 horizontal bolts back in it. Now I got to put this bracket back here. I can do that after the alternator. And I guess we'll try to get that fluid in a funnel and back in the radiator out of the pan. So I've got the alternator bolted back in place and the engine lift bracket, which with it off made the install a little easier on the alternator. And here's a little tech tip. Your little bolt that retains the AC, okay, well that also fits the thermostat housing, so when you drop one down in the frame and can't find it, and the one off the engine bracket has a wider washer, it's actually better than what they had holding on the water neck. So you know, you don't really need 2 of these brackets. The other one over here is way over there, but I think this one close to the compressor is probably more critical. So the one remaining, we'll wiggle that down and get that back in there. But yeah, the engine lift bracket, I mean, do you really need to leave that on there? Probably, because if you own an H3 Hummer with a 3.7 inline 5, you probably know what I'm going to say, that it's a gutless, torqueless POS. And you know, these things are heavy. They weigh like 4,500 pounds or more, 5,000, I don't know, so much as a V8 truck. And why didn't they just start off with the V8? They added the 5.3 later because they realized they screwed up. You know, the H2s have 6 liters. So, you know, leave the engine pull bracket, because, you know, if I ever use that bracket, hopefully it's because a built for torque cathedral head 408 cubic inch LS, you know, is going in it. In a perfect world. I'm not saying that's happening. If it was, it's way down the priority list. But anywho, we're going to torque this little bracket down and start pouring the coolant back in. I also got the belt back on. Easy peasy. Use a 3/8 short extension in that square hole in kind of this position. Easy peasy with the fan off for sure. Probably going to put a little penetrating oil spray on the threads when we go to screw the fan on, which I imagine I need to lower into place. It's going to drop into those circle holes, but the fan needs to go with it, and then we can start the threads for the fan. And hopefully those bolts aren't in the way to torque the fan. Surely not. But anyways, we're going to do that. We'll probably do the coolant first. I'm going to drain that tray into a bucket, then to a funnel. Got the PB spray lubricant on the threads. Putting the new hardware together on the new Rock Auto provided fan and heavy duty clutch. Well, the inevitable woes of Larry are still inevitable. I caught all that coolant, got it back in the radiator, and then the stupid drop down pins couldn't get the passenger side pins to drop in the shroud. The fan's just kind of down there and not spun on the nut yet, and so I ended up having to take the upper radiator hose loose and ended up getting antifreeze dripping on me laying under the car. Got it in my hair and on my back, and that's inevitable with me. I always get soaked in my hair with transmission fluid or coolant. So, you know, I tried. It didn't fail. Failed at not having this in my hair, but yeah, whatever. So I hope I can get that nut tightened on the fan, then we'll be ready to turn it on and take that module out. Well, I got the fan loosely spun on, but of course once most of the tension's out, all those bolt heads are in the way, so I can't get the adjustable wrench back on there, so I'm going to end up having to buy a narrow end wrench for the damn fan clutch. Figures. Stupid ass thing. Don't need a wrench that big. Oh, now I gotta buy one. Yay. I don't think I'm gonna turn it on today. We'll just let this roll over. I'm going to take a shower because I have antifreeze in my hair. And I don't really like that too much. Alright, I went ahead and wrestled out this jet power module. Yeah, it might make horsepower, but at 6,500 RPM, I don't really give a crap if there's gains at 6,500 when it's, you know, Turdville under 3,000 or under 5,000. So as far as I know, this is just a spacer and it went back in, so hopefully that's back to the factory tune. It's not my expertise, but it's what I think that's going to be. We'll see. Well, I ended up pulling a couple of the nuts off the pulley so I could get the adjustable wrench down there to get a little torque on the clutch fan. So it's good enough to test fire it. We'll see what it does. I got a little bit of water in it and we'll hopefully see thermostat open and get bubbles out or whatever. Well, with a little charge on the battery to jump it, she's running without the chip. So we're going to let the water warm up. Really nice airflow. You know, removing aftermarket parts isn't weird. It's often an improvement. It's not, let's not be fooled and think because it's supposed to be an upgrade. I mean, basically, yeah, you don't find snake oil anymore, but you got the same salesman. Just saying. Sometimes reliability and OEM is the best, especially when you're fighting a no-win battle on a gutless drivetrain combo. So let's go for reliability and hopefully some better MPGs, even though we never measured this one, but on that trip from California driving it back, I can't see it getting more than 10 or 12 or something. You know, this thing I think was rated 14, 18 originally, but obviously the bigger wheels and tires hurt it. But I mean, if I could get 15 on the highway or 16, I mean, that would be, it's got to be better than what it was. But I'll let that run a while and top off the water.